Hey, my name is Isaiah, and if you haven't noticed already, I'm a huge fan of self-improvement. And a lot of my inspiration for my own improvement comes from the ideas that I read in books. So I figured I'd start a series where I share those ideas that strongly impacted my life so that they can have a similar impact on yours. Welcome to Isaiah's Insights, a collection of my favorite lessons that I've learned while reading. We'll be starting off with the book that I finished most recently, James Clear's Atomic Habits. The topics from it that I'll cover in this video are how most of us have no idea how progress works, the concept of breakthroughs, and how your identity can shape your habits. But first things first, a quick overview of the book. As the name suggests, the book is about the power of our habits throughout our day-to-day lives. The author discusses topics around consistency, routines, and how to build positive habits and break bad ones. The book's core focus is on the concept that small changes can have a massive impact on your life given enough time. For example, switching your soda for water tonight won't have a dramatic difference on your overall health. But if you drank water with dinner every night for the next year, that change becomes a lot clearer. Continue that for the rest of your life, and the version of you that drank water for dinner every night is going to have far better health outcomes than the version of you that didn't. So that's the power of small changes. And if you manage to implement these changes into your daily routine, it becomes a habit. Hence the name Atomic Habits. That takes me to my first insight, and that is how James Clear clarifies progress. Most of the time when we are trying to achieve some sort of goal or develop a skill, we have a misconception that it will be a linear progression. We expect that the amount of effort we put into that goal will instantly lead to the same amount of results that we'll get back. However, the reality is that our outcomes lag behind the work that we do. Progression tends to be more exponential, starting slow at first, but then hitting a breakthrough point and increasing faster and faster afterwards. But we don't often get to see that breakthrough because of something known as the Valley of Disappointment. This is the period in our progression when we expect to see those linear results, but they don't come, and we get demotivated from achieving our goal. And we usually end up in quitting before reaching that breakthrough. The lesson here is that once you understand how progress works and continue working through the Valley of Disappointment, that you'll eventually reach that breakthrough point and reach your goal faster than you thought you would. Learning about the true nature of progress gave me a lot of motivation for when I'm trying to achieve my own goals. Now I know it's a normal thing to not see the result I want at first. It's actually pretty reassuring to know that I'm not destined to be bad at the guitar, but I'll eventually get better. It's also really motivating to know that if I keep my head down and get to work, despite how tempting quitting might seem, that I'll be rewarded for it in the long run. It's a lesson that gives me a lot of encouragement when working towards my goals, and I hope it does the same for you. Now on to breakthroughs. You might be asking, what makes a breakthrough point so special? I thought the same thing too, but the answer is surprising. Nothing makes a breakthrough special. It's not like a eureka moment that a scientist might have where a brilliant idea just leaps into their head. Instead, it's an outcome of all the work that came before it. It just happens to be the final thing to tip the scales. Now, James shows this really clearly with an ice cube. Imagine that you take an ice cube out of the freezer and place it in a room of the same temperature. Now imagine that you slowly increase the temperature in that room, degree by degree. For several degrees, the cube will remain the same, until the room reaches a specific temperature, the melting point of water. This is where the breakthrough occurs. But that last degree that got the cube to melt wasn't special. If you take it in isolation, that 1 degree increase would never have melted the cube. Instead, it was the compounding effect of all the increases before it that allowed that 1 degree to tip the scales enough to get a massive payoff. All it took was consistent work, a consistent increase. Now for an ice cube, a breakthrough point is obvious. But in our daily lives, it's a little more subtle. It might look like you going on 10 runs before realizing on your 11th run that you don't get as winded as you usually get. Or after sitting down every night to study, realizing that it's starting to feel a little less like a chore. Once you hit that point, every time that you do the activity afterwards, it gets a little easier and your results a little better. Until, next thing you know, you barely break a sweat on your runs and study for 2 hours a night without even thinking about it. I really like this explanation of breakthroughs because it's also another thing to look forward to when I'm putting in work towards a goal. It's kind of exciting knowing that somehow, somewhere down the line, I'll get a boost to my productivity that will snowball me to greater heights as long as I continue the work. Even this video is a result of a breakthrough. For the past few days, I've been committing to writing at least 5 minutes towards my videos every night. And now I'm getting the hang of it, and the ideas are coming a lot more naturally and a lot more fluidly. So take it from me, breakthroughs are real, and if you keep them in mind, they may motivate you towards your goals. Claire says that when changing aspects of what we want our lives to look like, there are 3 layers of self that we need to consider. The first layer is our identity, who we think we are and what we think we are capable of. The second layer holds our processes. These are all our daily routines and habits that we perform. And the third layer holds our outcomes. These are all the goals that we hope to achieve. Often, we try to change our lives focusing on the outcomes first and then eventually trying to change our identities. But he says that this is backwards because it leads to goals with very little motivation behind them. A good example of these are New Year's resolutions. Someone might have a resolution of, I want to lose 5 pounds. At first, it goes well as the idea is fresh in their head, but by the time February comes around, the initial motivation fades and the resolution is soon forgotten because the person never changed who they are. To avoid this, Claire advises an identity-based approach, changing who you are and what you think of yourself first, and then letting the processes and outcomes flow more naturally from it. Instead of, I want to lose 5 pounds, the identity-based approach would be something like, I want to be someone who cares about my physical fitness. At first, I was a little skeptical about this one, but that was until Claire showed that we already do this sort of thing in our day-to-day lives, and it works, just in the opposite direction. You probably already say things like, I'm not good at math, or I'm terrible at directions. When you say these things, you are confirming an identity for yourself. And because of it, you make actions or choices that confirm that belief, like not taking courses that involve math, or not going for a drive without Google Maps. Those choices make sure you never improve at those things. But this can be used in a positive way for the things that we want to achieve as well. All it takes is a simple 2-step process. First, decide the type of person that you want to be. And second, prove it to yourself with small wins. The first step is easy. Figure out something that you really want to do and pick to be the type of person that does it. You don't want to read a book, you want to become a reader. Now with your identity selected, you can view everything that you do throughout your day as either confirming that identity or denying it. If I tell myself I'm someone who cares about their physical fitness, when I choose to work out instead of eating snacks, I am confirming that identity. But whenever I go on a midnight binge of eating ice cream, then I am denying that identity. Claire words this so well in one of my favorite quotes from the book. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you become. It's one of those quotes that makes me want to make the right choices, and I can't imagine a better note to end on. And that concludes the first episode of Isaiah's Insights. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you get into the habit of liking my videos when you enjoy them. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this and more amazing ideas from James Clear's book, because there are so many in it and they will be coming very, very shortly. That is all from me for today. I've been Isaiah, and I hope that you use what I said today to keep improving.